Former governor of the Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, who was suspended by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has been in custody of the Department of State Services since he left office. After weeks of detention with no concrete basis, a federal high court ordered the DSS to charge Emefiele to court if they have criminal allegations against him. Finally, last week, the former CBN governor was charged to court by the DSS. Peter Afunaya, spokesperson of the DSS, said the decision to charge Emefiele was in compliance with the court order. The secret police, however, failed to state the charges filed against Emefiele. The court finally granted an order of injunction directing and mandating the respondents, particularly the DSS, to forthwith release and unfetter Mr. Emefiele from any arrest, detention, custody, interrogation with regard to allegations of terrorism financing, fraudulent practices, money laundering, round-tripping, the threat to national security before or from any court in view of the subsisting judgment of Justice M.A. Hassan. The whole Emefiele debacle has raised questions about the operation of security agencies arresting individuals without the availability of concrete evidence to prosecute them. Why are they allowed to keep operating in this manner? Well, joining us to discuss this is Adeyinka Olumide Fusika, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Well, good morning, sir, and welcome to the morning show. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, let's dive right into it. As you know, last week, the High Court nullified the arrest and detention of Godwin Emefiele. Now, we are hearing that the federal government has charged Emefiele, has filed a 2-count charge of illegal possession of firearms and ammunition against Emefiele before the Federal High Court in Lagos. The FG is accusing Emefiele of possession of firearms without a license. But we know that, back in June, when DSS has searched Emefiele's residence, I believe that they said that they found only 300,000 naira and a pump-action gun with a license. I mean, maybe this is another, gun that the federal government found. Can you help us understand this new charge and why it took the federal government that long to present this charge against Godwin Emefiele?
Well, let me start by saying that all we know, all I know is what we've read on the pages of newspapers, so it's difficult to be too sure of some of these things, especially as to what he's been charged with. I've not seen the whatever it is that they filed in court. But let me start by saying that the order granted by the court was at the instance of Mr. Emefiele. And I think that those in power now, there's a lesson for all of us to learn from that fact alone, which is that at the end of the day, when you are in power, or power is in you, whatever way you want to take it, you should always have respect for the court, for the court system, because that's what would stand by you when things turn around. You are no longer in power, or power has departed you, or departed from you. That I'm even surprised that Mr. Emefiele could go to court to seek protection, because when he was in power, what is happening to him now, he did, almost the same thing to others. I remember the answers panel, the answers event when he was running from place to place, taking all the closing accounts, which he had no power to do, preventing people from running their bank account simply because he was the CBN governor. And courts were making orders, and countless, he would find ways to dodge around those things. But irrespective of what we say about that, those doing the same thing to him now should realize that things may turn around, and they may then need to go back to court, the same court that they are disobeying, to seek solace.
Yeah.
So it's a lesson for all of us.
Yeah.
The judiciary is there for a purpose. It is to protect us from power, misuse of power, when we are victims of it. So all of us should learn from that. That being said, we hear that he's been charged now. If we go back to the history of the case, we heard at that time that he was under investigation for all sorts of heinous crimes, including one bordering on is it security or something?
Terrorism financing.
Money laundering, terrorism financing, and so on and so forth. So it seems something of an anticlimax to say that they are now charging for possessing Dane gun. You know, that's what it's. You know, the description of the gun is a Dane gun. You know, he has a Dane gun in his possession. So maybe they want to make a mockery of the decision of the court by saying, "You say go and charge him." So we are charging him. So we charge him for something. You know, the last time I checked, I don't know whether, you know, the way they turn out laws these days is difficult to know what is exactly the law in Nigeria. But the last time I checked, the punishment for that is 20,000 naira fine. Dane gun, 20,000 naira fine.
If you have that without license.
Yes, it's 20,000 naira fine.
That's the fine.
Yes, that's it. That's the thing. So you don't wonder what the DSS, what is the concern of the amount of money they spent on this investigation is certainly more than 20,000. I mean, what exactly is going on? But how do I put it now? The positive side of me, or let me say, is that apart from making mockery, you know, trying to say, well, we've obeyed the decision of the court, I want to believe that they are holding him for more than that. There must be something they are holding him for that they are not yet disclosing to the country. But it surely cannot be that the DSS would have been engaged in this investigation, and all they found at the end of the day is that he has Dane gun in his house, you know. It sounds ridiculous to me.
This Emefiele case highlights the issues or the issue of individuals being arrested and detained by security agencies without the availability of concrete evidence to prosecute them. Now, in your opinion, what safeguards or, you know, why say oversight mechanisms should be put in place to prevent the abuse of power? Like you said before, you know, at a point, it seemed as if he was the one that was doing that. And now that he's, you know, no longer in power, that same issue is affecting him. So this is definitely an issue with the modus operandi of security agencies. So how do we prevent the abuse of power and ensure that arrests are based on valid ground and supported by sufficient evidence?
See, we just need to, there's no safeguard that we can put because the safeguards are already there. It's just that the people in power are, once we are lawless, let me put it that way. Once you have a little bit of power, you think you are everything, you know. The Constitution of Nigeria has already made a lot of safeguards for that. You can't arrest someone. And if you have to arrest, you know, prescription as to warrant of arrest, and even if you do that, in a place like Abuja, you have to charge him to court within 24 hours. Yeah. In other words, the Constitution is saying, don't arrest until you are ready to charge to court. That's what the Constitution is saying, you know. Yeah. But these people, and I've done a lot of criminal cases. When I say these people, I mean police, DSS, EFCC, maybe possible exception, ICPC. That's the only one that I know doesn't routinely do the same thing. You will go to make a complaint to the police. The next thing, their investigation is the arrest.
Pick him.
They pick him up, lock him up. That's all. Make him to write a statement. That's all. And then nothing else. These people, DSS, we know the history of this case. They've been on it. They didn't just start after Emefiele was suspended. They've been on it for long. They've been investigating, you know. So you expect that immediately he was arrested, he will be charged to court for something concrete, not possession of the gun. And don't also forget that none of them in power. The work of the DSS is to, you know, quietly monitor.
Exactly.
So they know everything. They are aware of everything that Emefiele was doing in office. They knew. You know, if he was doing anything illegal, they were collecting and gathering the information and storing it somewhere. So they would have known that, oh, he's been doing something illegal and all that. So all they needed to have done was immediately they were able, because initially they weren't able to bring him in to, you know, answer, to be questioned. Immediately they brought him in. We have this evidence against you. We have this evidence against you. can you please explain? If he's able to explain, they let him go. If he's unable to explain, the next day they charge him to court. That's how it is done in countries where we follow law and order. But in our own climb, the constitution is there, but people just simply, and you know, they even go to the extent of going to some, I'm sorry to use the word, very sorry to use the word, you know, because most of them are illiterate, really. If they are not illiterate, they won't be granting those kind of orders. Magistrates. When the constitution says you cannot detain someone for more than 24 hours, they can go to Karu or go to, I don't know, some backward magistrate court and then say, give us an order. They know they are thwarting the law. They know they are making a mockery of the constitution of Nigeria. Right. Then now that one will, you know, for the asking, grants the order and say, go and detain him for 30 days. Go and detain him for, you know. That's what they've been doing. You know, and I say that many of the people granting these orders, they really don't, once the DSS or police or EFCC comes before them, they just grant the order. They are illiterate, I say so. You know, because if they are not, they will understand that the Constitution of Nigeria is supreme. When the Constitution makes a prescription, you just don't toy with it or, you know, just do whatever you like. There's no power that should be greater than the power of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but we make a mockery of it.
But how does this help the case eventually? Some lawyers have argued that this detention is actually illegal because, you know, the initial judgment by in December has not been set aside. The one that says that, you know, the Federal High Court restrains the DSS from preferring any charges of terrorism financing against him. Because it has not been set aside, I've
not read that decision.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure that you are summarizing it well. But if you are summarizing it well, my position is that you cannot restrain any organization from doing its work. You know, if the police has any reason to charge me to court, I can't go to court and say police should be prevented from investigating me or charging me. Nobody is above the law. So I seriously doubt that you are summarizing that judgment very well. What I remember was that the one I remember was the CJ of the Federal High Court. You know, the DSS went secretly to obtain an order to detain Emefiele indefinitely. And the CJ, the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, said, I can't grant you that order. It is within your right to investigate anybody. Go and arrest him if you want to arrest him. Follow the law. In other words, you can't detain him more than 24 hours. You can't come before me to say I should grant you an order to detain him for more than 24 hours. I will not grant it. That's the one I remember. This one you are talking about, I'm not too familiar with this.
Yes, I've read some lawyers have argued about that. They're saying that, you know, because that order, the judgment...
With due respect to that judge, if what you are saying is correct, I will say that that decision is... well, it would be strange. I mean, it's not. It won't be the first time. You know our moneyed men. They know how to go around the courts. You know, to obtain all manners of funny.
They call it a black market expert.
I won't call it. I won't call it a black market. I won't go that far. I will say that a lot of illiterate decisions are made. You know, maybe it's just that they don't know. How can you? If I'm writing a book, let me give you a clear example. I'm writing a book. And you suspect that that book is going to say some things against you that it may be libelous, you know, and then you go to court to say, you know, I should be prevented from, you don't even know, I've not published, I've not done anything, that I should be prevented from writing the book. I've not written it. You are saying that I should be prevented from, I've not even started writing. You say you suspect that I'm going to write the book actually. But the law is there. Right. If I wrote and I publish and the publication is actually libelous against you, you have a right to go to court to obtain decisions against me, including damages, including them saying that the book, you know, publishers should, sellers should not sell the book again. Publishers should stop publishing because this time the book is out, everybody can see it. You know, if you charge me wrongly, if the police, for instance, says I've killed someone and I'm charged wrongly, of course, there will be instances of miscarriage of justice. I may be sentenced, you know, for crimes I've not committed and so on and so forth. But the procedure is there. The law is there for me for the state to come and prove that I've committed that offense. And so long as they're able to put some form of evidence before the court, for me to then try and put evidence before the court to show to the contrary that I did not commit the offense. But for a court to say, don't charge him, that's like, handcuffing the police and say, don't do. I will not think that kind of decision is reasonable. And I actually still doubt that, what you are saying is correct. With due respect to you, I doubt it very much.
Okay, and let me come in there. It looks to me like this boils down essentially to the question of rule of law on the one hand,
yes,
and then the right of suspects on the other hand. And I'm not zeroing this down to just Emefiele. The case of Bawa is also there, the chairman of the EFCC. And part of what
Bawa has not bothered to go to court.
We're even hearing that he has not even, he has decided not to write any statement.
You know what is funny about that?
Yes.
Okay, I'll tell you. Sometimes when we accompany suspects, they just invite you, they say, I don't know whether you've seen a typical copy of their letter. We are investigating something. They won't tell you what you have done, what you are supposed to come and explain. I'm talking of EFCC letter.
Okay.
They will say, come, and when you get there, they will tell you to write a statement. So on one occasion, I told my client not to write. And that became a big problem. We will detain him. We will do this. We will, all sorts. Because the law says that you are not compelled. Even the statement, the sheet of paper they give to you to write on, is stated there. They are not obliged to write anything. So I'm surprised that Bawa is saying so. You know why? I didn't know he knew that suspects have a right not to make statements. So if he actually says so, it means he's been committing, subjecting people to needless whatever. When he knew all the while that you cannot compel anybody to write a statement. So it's very good that we can use his own example now to tell the EFCC, the police and all that, go and do your investigation.
Exactly.
You don't need me to say I'm guilty. Prove that I'm guilty. You don't need me to say, yes, I did this on so day. That's not what the law says. Say, investigate me. And if you have facts against me, take it to court. It's not by my own, the Americans say, when you see what them on they say, I'm taking my right, they have a way of putting it, If you ask them question, they may say they will not answer because they are taking their Fourth Amendment.
You have the right not to say anything.
Fourth Amendment right and so on and so forth. That is still our own law. You are not compelled to write to,
so that's
to volunteer any statement to anybody.
That's the irony of
the
situation.
Ironic. Yeah. And I thank Mr. Bawa for doing that this time.
But what is right under the law for refusing to write a statement? What would that lead to?
He's telling them, if you have anything against me, charge me to court. That's what he's saying. It's a challenge. He's challenging them. If you believe I've committed any offense, conduct your investigation, take me to court. I don't need to write a statement. And it's his right. And I'm happy that he has done that.
But if he has
it's a lesson for the EFCC and all those other
things. If he has not gone to court like Emefiele, he can be there indefinitely.
No, you can. If he has not gone to court, well, his right is there to go to court. If he decides not to go to court, it's not your headache. It's not mine. I mean, if he decides not to, he's only telling them, you go and do your investigation. If you believe I've done anything wrong, then take me to court. I'm not going to tell you that I've done this or I've done that. If you have anything against me that you say, and you believe that I'm not writing a statement, charge me to court. It's a challenge. He's telling them, he's daring them, And I think it's the right thing to do. And I commend this bravery. Many of our people, because of fear, I don't want to die, I don't want to be party for house and all those nonsense. Once they hear the EFCC or the police has invited them, they begin to shake like a jelly, And even what they are not asked, they will write. Out of fear, the criminals.
Because the officers will stand, on their neck and be teleguiding them how to.
Let me even tell you what they will. Let me even tell you what. If they ask you, if they ask you a question and you answer it in your own way, they will tell you no. Before you write, that's the way it goes. Before you write, they will first of all ask you the question, and when you answer, if they are satisfied with your answer, they will tell you write. If they are not satisfied, if that's not the answer they want you to give, they will tell you, no. Like putting words into your mouth and forcing you to write. And they are there, threatening you with detention, with no statement that are put before the course of, from my own experience, whether at the police station or whatever, no statement is ever voluntary in Nigeria.
But
that's the truth.
So how can the affected party fight this if this is all under duress?
It is always under duress. And I say it with all sincerity because I've witnessed this, We rarely would you find a statement made by an accused person in Nigeria under the... And, you know, there's the law now that I think in the criminal procedure that requires recording. Okay. They now say your lawyer must be there, you know, so that lawyer can guide you. It must be recorded. It's because the system know that most of those statements are not voluntary. So attempts have been made to, record it so that anybody watching it will know whether it is voluntary or not. Let your lawyer, the accused person's lawyer, let him be there to witness the making of the statement, you know. But this is my experience. You accompany an accused to the place, wherever it is, and they are asking a question, and you are trying to tell explain. They say, no, you can't talk, you can't do this. What is the purpose of the lawyer being there then? We will send you out. Very rude lots, those characters. Very rude. They are trained to be rude, to be uncouth, you know. So I'm happy with the example of Mr. Bawa. Okay. Yes, he should, if he doesn't have anything to say, he should not say it. Okay. If he does not have a statement to write, he should not write it. That does not mean that, I mean, what I said, he was doing the same thing to people before, So now power has left him, or he has left power, and he's, you know. So those in power now, we should let them know that, like Zik, and the late Zik said, no condition is permanent.
We said it earlier at the beginning of the program, power is transient.
No condition is permanent. You can be there today, and then be the victim.
Exactly, of the same...
So let us... use power responsibly. Let us do unto others what we have done to us. That's the solution to all this.
But what if all this is politically motivated? Because we hear the president make comments about this arrest, even when, like Emefiele's case is still in court, and he will go outside of the country and say, oh, this is the reason why I removed him.
Yeah,
but
like
the case is in court.
You know, I will not go into that with you. Emefiele was a politician. Yes.
Was he?
He wanted to contest now, you've forgotten. He bought vehicles, branded it. So, I mean, if he's a victim of political victimization, well, that's between them. It's not something I want to. He was supposed to be a professional, face your work as a CBN governor, do your work thoroughly, don't dabble into things. But he also wanted to be president, you know. So it's unfortunate that he didn't become president. His rival for the position has become president now. So it's normal for his rival to want to deal with him. It's nothing.
So you think this is sort of political detention? What do you make of the school of thought?
What I said, that Emefiele is a politician.
I heard you clearly.
So he cannot complain that, you know.
I heard you clearly. What do you make of the school of thought? I mean, I believe Omoyele Sowore has a trending tweet where he said that, you know, Emefiele, you know, he's held because of orders of, you know, people that are in power, and that if he were to be arrested or if he were to even talk or charge, that he will bring down President Muhammadu Buhari, his entire family. I don't know if you have seen that tweet and all of that. What do you make of that?
Well, you know, Sowore has his own source of information. He's a journalist and he has all this whatever. But if you look at it very well, you know, you cannot hold that position. We hear about how they were ferreting dollar and all that out of the CBN, you know. I'm sorry, these are not proven facts, so nobody should say, oh, I said so. And I'm only saying that what we hear is, you know, how CBN was mismanaged and so on and so forth, you know. How, you know, they will sell dollar for 400, whatever, and then resell it for 600 and keep the 200 naira difference in some, you know, private round tripping and all that. I, for instance, had a case of one young lady. I don't know whether it didn't make much headline. I think the EFCC charged him for having in her account, I think it was some mind-boggling figure, maybe about 17 billion. Yeah, about 17 billion naira. You know, the case was in Abuja. You know, a bit for the charging for possession or something, or money laundering or something like that. I don't want to mention him. I would have given some indication of is the wife of somebody, you know. But it's actually a case in court, you know. So they were asking him how she got this.
Come about this
I think
humongous figure.
Both the EFCC and they all knew what the source of the money was, but they just charged him with something petty, you know. So it was granted bail and all that, you know. And it turned out that what we then had, you know, from other sources was that the 17 billion was, the account was one of those accounts used for warehousing these difference between CBN rate and, you know. So it was just, they were just using the account for that purpose. One of several accounts, you know. So it is true that if they are actually interested in knowing, they will know what they don't want to know. Yes. And it may actually, all of them are involved, all of them. Where did they get the money they are using for campaign? You know, where? All those, if you look at the number of votes most of them had, and then you know the exact amount of money they spent from primaries to the completion of the election, and you do it per capita, you will see that probably they will spend 1 billion on one vote, 1 billion naira, to get one vote. They would have spent, or even more. You know, so where was all the money coming from? Through this kind of, you know, underhand. So they all know. So maybe Showora is right to say that if the man opens his mouth and you want to know, okay, give me paper, let me write. And he begins to write.
Right.
The entire infrastructure, you know, superstructure will be shaken to its foundation. So that's the reason why they are charging for possessing Dame gun. Yes.
All right.
Good way to end it.
Absolutely. We'd like to thank you very much for
Thank you.
enlightening us
Thank you
on
for
the
being here.
program.
Thank you so much.
Thank
All
you
right.
for your input today.
Thank you so much.